time. One more time. Glitchy. Hey, welcome to the Mystery Hour. We're back. It's nice to be back. I'm looking more and more like a 1980s villain. How are you all doing? Yeah, strange times, right? So here's what we got. We got a great show. Lyle Foster is an old friend of mine. He owns Big Momma's QNoteca on Commercial Street. Anyway, he's a guy I just love. And he's on tonight. Oh, yes. Betsy Williams Martin's ass feeling greasy tonight. Yeah. I mean, it's summer, man. It's June. I'm getting greasy. So we have Lyle Foster. And then, so I interviewed him yesterday afternoon, actually. And then today he's a great singer. He sent me a video of him singing Lean On Me. It's like a shortened version of it. So anyway, he's going to be our musical guest too, because he can do both. Let me get to our sponsors. OMB Bank, Old Missouri Bank. They love supporting people making something right where they are, here in Springfield. OTC. Ozarks Technical Community College. You can get your entire degree online. You don't have to bother with people. I mean, that's not what they say. They say it's also great to do it online, which is especially good right now. Yeah, so let's do this. I am ill-equipped to really talk about race, right? But that's what's going on. And I said this on my post on Facebook is, what did I say? I said something. I said, oh yeah, I was like, what do I do? And then I was like, I have a show that tens of people watch and ones of people adore. My mother. So anyway, I wanted to do my part, and Springfield in particular, maybe watching from elsewhere, Springfield in particular, has always had a diversity problem. And in fact, Lyle and I used to talk about that up at Big Momma's, but before I had kids and stuff, I'd just go sit and talk with them. And we also put on a storytelling show at QNoteca. We used to do a special one for Black History Month. And so I wanted to talk to someone like Lyle that I really admire and respect. He owns Big Momma's QNoteca, like I said. He's also a professor of sociology at Missouri State. And he's just a really neat guy. So he has some great wisdom, some great challenges for us. And my thing is to try to get out of the way. So I hope I did this in this interview. I'm sure I'm clunky with all of this. I know I am, but definitely want to be involved. So this is like an 18-minute interview, but it's worth it. Lyle's incredible. And then, like I said, after that, we'll come back and I'll introduce him as our musical guest. So I don't know what else I can say about Lyle other than that he's great, and you guys will discover that shortly. Okay, thanks for all the comments, guys. Good to see everyone. we'll get to Lyle Foster. Lyle, thanks for joining us today. Where are you? Are you at Big Mama's? Are you above Big Mama's? Are you nearby?
I've been to Big Mama's already today for a while, and I'm heading back, but I'm actually at home. I had a couple of Zoom calls this afternoon with all that's going on, and so I'm at home, and I stayed here until we had our conversation.
Yeah, nice. Well, thanks for taking the time. As we've just talked about, I feel like I have to apologize to everyone that I'm so glistening just because I'm in a garage. But it's
Well, Jeff, let me say it's just really great to see you and to be a part of the Mystery Hour, and we will take you glistening and all.
Oh yeah, and I should state that Big Mama's was the very first sponsor of the Mystery Hour, 2007 or something. You were on as a guest as well, and just someone before kids. I used to just come up and hang out and talk to you
This is
at
true.
Big Mama's.
And so we want a permanent tagline. And you also did something else on Commercial Street back in those good old days. Do you remember that?
I don't know, what was it?
Oh man, I'm going to have to bust you in front of everybody. Remember we did some storytelling?
Oh, of course, yeah.
The moth.
Yes, we did we called it So There I Was storytelling show.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And we would do our special stories during Black History Month in February, and people would share experiences, which of course, in light of all this going on, you were slightly ahead of the times. But that was a monthly gig and had some great stories and great experiences with that. So yeah, we go back, brother.
Yeah, I think about that. That's one of those things that went away for me with kids and whatnot. But I loved that and loved doing that. So that's a good jumping off point in terms of like what we did with that, telling stories and stuff. I don't know how to start the first question, but like, take me into kind of where you're at in this moment, what you're feeling and how you're experiencing this and seeing everything, this moment we're all in.
Well, I've been thinking about writing up, one of my columns that I do, and I think I've had a couple of different titles. My current working title is Saddened but Not Surprised. And I would say that, Jeff, because while many people are still kind of wringing hands and asking themselves and their neighbors what's going on, I think we're experiencing just a very critical moment in our nation's history in which we are called to look in the mirror and really think, hopefully once and for all, what we have created and where we went wrong and how do we change our trajectory. So I think this is a very difficult moment. It's a very sobering moment. It's a very painful one. But I think this is also a sea change in terms of a tremendous opportunity to make some things that are wrong right. I'm hearing from people from all walks of life and from other parts of the country, even from other countries, that are saying what's going on and what can we do. And I'm hoping that we can use that concern, that curiosity, to actually face what we're doing and make some changes.
Yeah. So this is one of the problems with doing this in my garage. Someone just started mowing nearby. Hopefully it still sounds okay.
Hey, we love that, man. Some city noise.
Some city noise, yeah. Sorry to interrupt with that. So now this is something I know because I know you lived in Chicago for years, and then you moved to Springfield, predominantly white, and I think it's been a real intentionality of yours to kind of, I don't know how I would express your intentionality, but like, how would you express it? I guess I would like to say, because I know we've talked about it in the past, but.
Sure. Well, very quickly and fortuitously, I know many people know a little bit of my story, but my best friend, Coach Ricky Birdsong, was actually murdered in a hate crime 21 years ago, actually this month in June. And he was actually killed by a white supremacist. And this was one of the first moments in our history when this became known as a hate crime. In fact, President Clinton, shortly thereafter, and Bill Clinton, of course, signed into law the original hate crime legislation. But that was, for me, a very definitive time in my life because I really began to question this notion of, I don't want to just say the American dream about how do we have a society when it's okay to kill a man because of the color of his skin, walking 1/2 block from his suburban home with 2 of his children. And the individual who did this also shot a number of Jewish worshipers coming out of synagogue and several Asian Americans and another African American. There were 2 people that were murdered and a number that were injured. It felt like something that was very surreal. Unfortunately, since that time, this has become too commonplace throughout our society. So I think in terms of your question, Jeff, it has made me want to develop a passion around how do we get along with one another. And so in some of my writings and some of my, I guess I would say community work, I have long said the issue of race is one of the top issues in our nation. And if we don't figure out how to solve it, we will not have the same nation. And I think those words, unfortunately, are coming true right before our very eyes. And so for me, it's not just a matter of, oh, this is just kind of a life vocation, but it's really an intentionality around, Jeff, you are my brother. We are members of humanity. And for our children and our children's children, we have to learn how to value one another, how to not be afraid of each other. The young lady, if you will, that was in Central Park, that was one of the most insightful videos we've seen in a long time, because you can actually witness in that video how she actually uses the police force, and she acknowledges later, as a type of protection agency. And this man who's just standing there trying to watch birds has now been described as a threatening African-American man who's trying to murder her. And so we actually see how fear operates right in front of ourselves. And as an African-American man myself, I have seen that work in many ways. Doors locked, purses clutched, people move. And every now and then, I guess I shouldn't say this, Jeff, sometimes I use it to my advantage. It's like, oh, I need a seat. Well, I know if I sit down, or last summer, Jeff, I should be saying this. I had a swimming pool that I would go to. I would go there about 9 o'clock in the evening. And no matter who was there, once I jumped in the pool, I knew I had a private swim. So to be honest with you, I was like, well, time to go clear out the pool. I didn't ask anybody to leave. I don't think I took up the whole pool, but the very presence of who I am. And I think that's something we need to reckon with in this nation. So I know you're probably going to ask this, but when we see Mr. Floyd in front of our very eyes, and I think most people already knew before the medical examiner said it or concluded, he was dead before he got into the ambulance. When that grown 46-year-old man said, "Mama," anybody with any humanity at all recognizes we are sick and we have to do something. We saw this, and so that's why the world is in horror and in shock. And we who are trying to tell the world what they need to be like need to look in the mirror ourselves and say, this is who we need to be, because what we are now is not right.
That you and this is just kind of your spirit, but you're such an optimistic guy. I wonder if there's cynicism of like, is this going to be this flash in the pan and people have interest right now, and then in 6 months people aren't talking about it? How does this moment become something that creates lasting change?
Well, I'm by training, I'm a sociologist, and so I'm always kind of fascinated and interested in how societies develop. And Jeff, I think you may have had this experience yourself. I oftentimes think about periods in our history, and I'm like, well, if I had been there then, this is what I would have done. And so we look back at slavery, we look back at the Civil War, we look back at very interesting periods of our history. I mean, I have been to Anne Frank's home in Amsterdam, and I mean, going through that house is a very powerful experience. And you're thinking, how did this young teenage girl survive and write this diary and all of this stuff and stuff? And you're thinking, what would your role have been? So I would say, to the Mystery Hour audience, to our friends and neighbors in Springfield and in other markets, we're in a very pivotal moment in our history right now as we live. And so somebody's going to look back at 2020, not only at the public health pandemic, but they're going to look at the riots in the streets, and you're going to have your children, Jeff, and your grandchildren. They're going to say, Grandpa, Pop. They're going to say, Uncle. They're going to say, Mama. They're going to say, Oma. They're going to say, Ma dear. Well, what did you do when all that happened in 2020? Where were you? And I would just say to our audience, what are you doing? What will be your story? What will be your mark in history? And that's where the opportunity is, to not let this be like similar moments in the past. I know I'm going to upset some of your audience, but many people are quoting Dr. King, but that's been a pivotal shift. Many people today are saying, we've already sung, we've already hummed, and we've already tried to do that movement. and it got a few steps, but we need to get across the finish line. And so I think the opportunity is we have seen what needs to be done. And many people are saying we're not going to be tricked or lulled into sleep the way we have been in the past. I saw a few young people on the news last night. It was actually very encouraging. They actually said, we're going to be here every day on the corner without signs. And these was a very diverse group. And they looked like they were, late teens, early 20s. And I'm like, something else has happened, Jeff, and I was telling someone this today. Many people are not working because of the pandemic. So from a perfect storm standpoint, this is a catastrophic standpoint. People are not working. They're home. They have the time to be out. They can be out. They're getting unemployment checks. So it's like, let's go down there and tell folks we want something to be changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you, we're in the very middle of it. And how do you, I guess I'm not asking you to prognosticate, but I'm curious how you think as a man who has experience, how do you think this goes forward? It's so odd. You mentioned history, to feel like we're in the middle of a historic moment. And I've read about historic moments and I know how they go and where they end. And now we're in the middle and it's hard to know.
And we don't know because I think we're in a space we really have not been in before. Now, there are similarities. The pandemic in the early 1900s was followed by literally race riots across the nation, including Tulsa and Joplin. We had our events here in Springfield. But out of that came Renaissance. Out of that came creativity. So I think we know that's going to be something beautiful that's going to happen on the other side of this. But I think at this point, there are going to have to be some people who are in power who are going to say, I've got to relinquish, I've got to share. I think we're going to see that there are going to be some policies and procedures that are changed. I think we're going to see investment. We're seeing significant companies now. And I'm not just talking about Facebook and a few places like that, but people are actually beginning to say, we need to invest in marginalized and underrepresented communities. The disparities that we see not only in Springfield, but across our nation. And actually COVID-19 has revealed those. African Americans, Latinos are dying at a much higher rate, many times because of underlying health conditions, but either that reflects the disparities. And so I think it's actually going to make us look at, I call it the Oz effect. We're looking behind the curtain and we're shocked at what we see. And I'm hearing from enough people who are saying, not only am I shocked at what I see, I don't like what I see. And I think there are people who are saying, we're going to change some things. And I really believe, Jeff, there are some things that are going to be changed. In fact, things are being changed even as we speak. And I think we're going to see that. So I'm hearing from people who say, I want my children to know, because see, this is the thing I say, that police officer in Minneapolis, all four of them, they didn't come from another planet and just materialized on that street corner. They came out of our communities. They came out of our schools. They came out of our churches, our communities of faith. They came out of our business associations, and they came out of our police forces. So we've got to ask ourselves, what is about those systems that produce these kind of individuals? And I think when we really ask that question, we know what needs to be done.
Yeah. So let me wrap up with this. So it's
you finished with me already, brother?
Not yet.
I'm just messing with you. I know this is a very difficult topic, so I'm trying to, help us to get through it.
So there are protests in every state. I even saw some in Paris. We have some here in Springfield. So in terms of the issue here in Springfield, which is 80-some% white, obviously it's an issue and has been an issue. What do you hope to see for this community in particular?
Wonderful. And thank you for asking that. I read an article on the NBC News site last week, and it was a young man, African-American man in Minneapolis, who was talking about the phenomena known as Minnesota Minneapolis Nice. I actually went to undergraduate college in the Twin Cities, so I know the Twin Cities very, very well. They've got a lot of good things going for themselves, but that same phenomena is known here in Springfield, somewhat because of our very large faith covering. There's this idea that everybody here is very nice, but sometimes, behind the niceness can be some danger. So I think We're looking for opportunity in terms of being able to have contracting opportunities for our business community, being able to have leadership opportunities in the larger community, employment, diversity education in our schools. We are finding, just being candid at the university, many students, not only from Springfield, from Missouri, we're teaching them information. They're saying, we never heard this. We never knew this. How come they didn't? And they're finally saying, we wish somebody had told us this sooner. So I believe diversity education, not only in the university level, but in terms of, our public schools, K through 12. I think we also have to hopefully have some, what I would call difficult conversations in our community, of learning how to not be afraid of each other, to stop hiding behind the gates, hiding behind the various walls. And while this is not completely a racial issue, but there's a huge disparity between North Springfield and South Springfield. I have been a part of North Springfield most of my time here. And it's kind of like, North side and South side. And we've got the sides, but I think we need to be on our city side and humanity side. So I think I would say to city leaders, can you please invest in the north side in terms of jobs? Our public transportation system doesn't take people where the jobs are. You can't get to the airport unless you've got a car or a Uber or a Goober or a Duber to get you there. Why is that? We can't just accept the fact that we're giving out food and helping those in poor. We need to give out jobs and change the wages. So I guess my point is, I think this has the opportunity to really look at some systemic change. And so those who just think we can just, give out a couple of rent checks and a couple of, boxes of food, that is not the answer. We've got to look at our systems that have given us what we have. And a lot of that is actually even based in our historic racism, and figure out how do we dismantle that. And I think people actually have experienced it here in Springfield, and they know what those things are. We've got several community surveys even going on right now, asking young, diverse professionals about their experiences, what would make them stay here. And I think we're finding some very interesting examples. I want an urban station, so when I'm driving around, I can hear the music that makes me get my bounce on. Mm-hmm. But I'm also looking for what I would call a much more diverse space of leadership, so that our children can see that we can anchor the news. Our children can see that we can provide leadership. Our children can see that we can be police officers and firefighters and every other capacity, and that is possible, and we need that. I know that was a long answer, but we've got a lot of different issues.
Yeah, we do. And I wanted a long answer. That was good. I didn't want to cut it. I didn't want to like a quick wrap up question. And you're right. We needed to talk a little more. Well, Lyle, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. And hopefully maybe we can have you on again sometime, mostly because I used to come and talk to you all the time at Big Momma's, and now that I'm stuck at home, this is my only way to talk to people and you and stuff. So I just try to make interviews happen so I can hang out with people I like.
Well, brother, I'll have to get your address again, and maybe I'll leave you a few C Street coolers outside your garage to help cool you down on a hot, thirsty day. How's that?
That sounds great. All right. Well, thanks, Lyle. I'm ending the recording now. Let's see. There we go. I love talking to that guy. Maybe you can tell it's not the first time we used to sit and talk a lot. And just a really insightful guy. And yeah, you know what I was thinking of during that is maybe this is a challenge to myself and my other white folks watching. What's the date? It's June 4th. Maybe June 4th next year, we should say. I don't know how you do this, but what are we doing June 4th, 2021? What does that look like? Because things have happened before, and then we kind of let it go. What does it look like June 4th, 2021? I don't know. Email me. Tell me what that could look like. Okay, so then I mentioned before, Lyle sent me a video of him singing "Lean on Me." It's not the full version, but there was that video, one of the protests somewhere yesterday, the day before, where there was a man leading "Lean on Me," and the protesters were joining in. I think Lyle was partially inspired by that, and he's an incredible singer. If you don't know, he used to Big Mama is used to. They have a kind of a narrow space up front, and then the back has a stage and lighting and stuff. And he used to put on productions and stuff. And he's an incredible singer himself. So please enjoy this. So if you enjoyed the interview with Lyle, this is like great des- des- dessert to end this on. So here's Lyle singing "Lean on Me."
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for and it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. And I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for and it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Lean on me.
Have you all fallen in love with Lyle Foster yet? Not only can he do that interview, he can then be like, also I can sing like this. What an asset he is for us here. Hey, tomorrow night we're gonna keep it rolling. I did the interview this afternoon actually with Wes Pratt. He's the chief diversity officer at Missouri State. We've had him on the Mystery Hour a couple of times. He's a fascinating guy because he was involved as an activist growing up in Springfield in high school, then in college at Drury, moved away, and then came back and started working at Missouri State. And he's really insightful as well. So anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.